everyone, Marla here. I have been trying to create a video for over a week now to highlight my trip to Royce's Roycycled retreat in Safford, Arizona, and all of the thrifting that I did while I was there. First of all, the retreat was amazing. I love Royce. She does beautiful work. She's a great hostess, and she's an even better teacher. She taught me some techniques that I have never seen before, introduced me to the jelly plate, which I had never heard of before, and just provided an atmosphere of, I guess I want to say, safety and being creative and doing whatever and not worrying about being judged by other people. There was a great group of women who attended. Several of them I had met at previous retreats and they had become my friends, and then I was able to meet some new friends. We did some thrifting while we were at Royce's, and then after the retreat I headed 90 miles south to Huachuca City, where my sister lives, and I spent 3.5 days with her. And for 3 of those 3.5 days we thrifted. So this video is a little bit about the retreat and a lot about my thrifting. I made 2 amazing finds, amazing purchases, and I will share those towards the end of the video. And then also a very special purchase that I made that will keep memories of this trip and my time at Royce's with me forever. So without further ado, let's get to the thrifting and the retreat. So this photo here is a picture taken the night everyone arrived. I believe that was Thursday. You can see Royce sitting there at our table just chatting with us, everybody just getting to know one another. When we arrived at Royce's the next day, she had beautiful vignettes set up throughout the venue. The space was just incredible, where all of us were allowed to work. One of the projects we worked on was a master board. There are some examples there. And then mine, before it was completely finished, right before I left, I had David take a picture of Royce with me. And then here's a picture of my group of friends that I met up with there. And then a picture of everyone who attended the retreat. So I mentioned in my introduction that I had picked up something that would always remind me of this trip and the time I spent at Royce's. On Saturday after the retreat, Royce invited us out to her warehouse so we could go through the stash. And so many of us went out there. My friends were picking up some small items from her whatnot pile, and so I decided that I would go back to see what she had. And although she did have a lot of small items, my eyes immediately went to this beautiful crate over in the corner. When I found out it was for sale, I grabbed it and said, "This is going home with me." It's been in my garage since I returned, and then followed by days of rain, so I just left it there. But I've decided that I'm going to go get it and share it with you because it is truly amazing. Here's the crate. I think it is absolutely amazing. Old. I have some crates, but I don't think I've seen one put together quite like this, with the metal straps on the edge and then the indentation of the wood here. It's in great shape for being as old as it is, and it is going to make an amazing display case for my vignettes. And as Sonnet mentioned in a recent video that she did, it's awesome to have something that came from Royce. I'll always remember where I got it and my experience at her retreat. So naturally that crate is going to stay with me. And now let's get on to the pictures of the other items. So the first place I went thrifting was the little antique store next door. One of the things I found was this beautiful display cabinet that I did bring home with me. What a chore it was to get that in my truck. But that was all because of a baby seat. That's a whole nother story. I also found this beautiful old green sewing kit. They had one in blue that was in a lot better shape, but green is my favorite color, so I chose this one. And look what I found inside. I went thrifting with my sister, went to a small town called Sierra Vista. I found this picture of this woman. She had signed the back to Mother with Love, 1942. I also found this candelabra that I want to use in my garden with solar lights. and then a small pot that was only $1 and had some nice greenery in it. After we left that store, we went to Goodwill. I found an old crusty wood container. I can't think of the name of them right now, but I picked it up for $3.99. This silver pan was actually only $2.50 because yellow tags were half price. And then I grabbed a sugar shake. It's a newer one, so I can use it for the cornstarch for my mold. I don't remember what location this was, but they did say that everything outside was half price. So I decided to go check it out. I found this little sewing table that I fell in love with. It was marked $10, so half off would have made it only $5. And it was in great shape. Obviously the sewing machine was not in it at that price, but I thought it would make a great little cabinet. However, I also knew that I had that giant cabinet in the back of my Jeep from Safford, and this was only my first of 3 days of thrifting at my sister's, so I decided not to pick it up. As I looked around, I came across a bread box that was marked $8, but again it was outside, so I got it for $4. Decided that I could make room for that, so I picked it up and took it home. The next day we headed off to Tombstone and did some pretty good thrifting there. I got these 3 signs that were marked $69.99 at Hobby Lobby for the 3, and I picked them up for $1 each. I also found 2 large bags of greenery for $1 each. I picked up a large frame that was pretty ornate. I thought it would work good with decoupage paper. It happened to be someone's wedding picture, but it was only $5, so I grabbed it and brought it home with me. I also found several small bottles that I thought would work great in vignettes, and they were $1.50 each. And then we headed to Bisbee. They had a lot of amazing things in this store, and I also liked their outdoor display. Bisbee is kind of a old hippie town, so that's right up my alley. When I walked in the antique store, I knew it was the kind of store that I was going to like. There were so many different items to choose from. A lot of different vendors had their things in booths, and I really could have spent hours in there. I don't think my sister was quite as thrilled as I was, but even though she loves to thrift, I think I love to thrift even more. I was looking for small things to use in vignettes, so I picked up this old rusty colander, filled it up with some rusty spice tins, and thought it would work great for a kitchen vignette. On the last day of thrifting, my nephew took me to a couple of places in Benson. I found these old canisters. Only one had the lid, and it was $3.50. The other one I got for 50 cents. I had to get them because they so reminded me of my mother's avocado green appliances that she had in the early 1970s. One of my biggest finds, however, was this print of Vincent van Gogh's Cafe in Paris. Vincent van Gogh has been my favorite artist since I was a teenager. I don't think any other artist has touched my soul the way he has, with his artwork and with his story. In fact, my orange cat is named Vincent in his honor. I noticed right away that the print had been professionally framed, so I assumed it would have a very high price tag. This is a large piece of art. Imagine my surprise when I turned it over and the tag said $5. It was senior day, and I got a 50% discount. People, I picked up this amazing piece of art for $2.50. After picking up the Van Gogh, I was ready to leave, but my nephew said, "Hey, Aunt Marla, have you checked outside? They usually have some pretty cool things there." First thing I spotted was this gigantic ornate mirror. This thing weighs a ton and is so beautiful. I paid $5 for it. My second biggest score of the trip. On the way back to my sister's house, we stopped at a couple of barns where I found this beautiful wooden platter. It was pretty beat up, but for $1, I thought it was worth bringing it home to try and do something with it. In the second barn, I found this amazing artist box. I loved everything about it, including the chippy turquoise paint that had been left behind by the artist. You can't really tell from the pictures, but this is a very large artist box. I haven't decided yet what I'm going to do with it, but chances are I'll leave it as is. I picked this up for $5. Aside from thrifting in thrift stores and antique malls, I've also learned to thrift online. When I saw the beautiful backdrop Royce had made for her retreat, I knew I wanted to create something similar for myself. I found this store online owned by a lady who lives about 5 miles from me in Las Vegas. So I bought it for $80 and had my husband pick it up. On the weekend, we went to the Spring Jamboree in Boulder City, which is about 15 miles away, and I found the 2 smaller doors for $25 each. I haven't figured out the final design, but once it's ready to go, I'll make sure to share it with everyone. Hope you enjoyed my video. If you love old vintage things and antiques as much as I do, then you know how much fun it is to thrift. I also love to be creative and turn some of those old vintage items into updated, beautiful home decor. If that's something that you'd be interested in learning about, then I would encourage you to subscribe to my channel. Give me a like. My channel is pretty brand new, so I'm working to get more subscribers. Also, I do have a booth here in Las Vegas, so if you are local and interested in upcycling products, I do carry DIY paint, fusion paint, Connie's Lines and Designs decoupage paper, decoupage queen and pent art, and I am happy to announce I just became a new retailer for Roycycled papers. Thank you for joining me, and have a great day.
Headlights on the highway. If you only knew, being back here always makes me think of you. When the world is sleeping, do you think of